Hey guys, I'm Chris, your real estate problem solver here in Warner Robins. I stopped in here at the Robins Air Museum to have lunch, and while I was here I wanted to do a quick video to update you on the NAR, the National Association of Realtors lawsuit settlement. Now, how does this lawsuit settlement going to affect buyers, how it's going to affect sellers, and the real kicker is we're still trying to find out what's going on or what's going to happen for buyers that are using VA loans. So stay tuned and we'll get into it. Okay, so the best way to explain what's going on is to start off by telling you what norm is right now before these changes take effect. Now, if you are selling your house and I come out and we talk and you decide that you want to do business with me and we're going to sell your house, then what we would do is we negotiate the amount of commission that I'm going to get paid for doing this job for you. Part of that commission is going to get offered out to the buyer's agents as an incentive for them to bring willing and able buyers to your house and make an offer. Of course, the more buyers we have coming in, the more offers we get, the more likely we are to get a bidding war and get the highest price that the market will allow for your house. Now, because the listing agent is usually the one offering out a co-op or cooperative commission to the buyer's agents, it was usually optional for a buyer's agent to sign a brokerage agreement with their client and to represent them as the buyer. But now this is what the new rules are. The new rules are going to take effect August 17th, that on the multiple listing service, the agents can no longer advertise a co-op split on the multiple listing service. Now, it doesn't mean that the listing agent or the seller can't offer some kind of concessions to the buyer's agent to entice buyers to bring in offers, but it just means that we can't offer it on the multiple listing service. Now, because we can no longer advertise a co-op split or a concession on the multiple listing service, the buyer's agents now have to call each of the listing agents of the properties that their client is interested in and find out if the listing agent is actually interested in or is offering a concession or any money at all. So that brings us to the next point. The next rule of the National Association of Realtors lawsuit is now making it mandatory that all buyer's agents have to have a buyer's engagement agreement with their buyer before they even show a house. And it was kind of a kick around, and people were kind of wondering, how is it that they're even going to enforce that and keep track of that? But it was brought up that if I go to a house and I show the house to somebody and I put him in my super box and it records that I'm the one that showed the house, and somebody from the National Association of Realtors decides to call and ask me, which apparently they are allowed to do, they can ask me for my brokerage agreement and I don't have one, then it's possible that they could fine me for not showing that house to my buyer without a buyer's brokerage engagement agreement. So that's kind of throwing a little monkey wrench in the works as well. So now all buyers agents are supposed to have, it's mandatory for them to have an agreement with their buyer, just like a listing agent has an agreement with their seller. Now, of course, this is going to open the door for buyer's agents or buyers to have this conversation with their agent about how much and if they are able and willing to pay for the services of their buyer's agent. Because now the buyer's agent is not necessarily getting paid by the listing agent anymore. The listing agent has the option not to pay a cooperative or a concession to the buyer's agent, which means if they're not going to get paid by the seller, then that means the buyer's agent has to have that conversation with you, the buyer, and find out if you're willing and able to pay them for representing you as the buyer in a transaction. Now, of course, the big issue is we're at Robins Air Force Base in Warner Robins in Middle Georgia. A lot of the transactions going on around here are with veterans and military families which use a VA loan. Now, the original regulations with VA loans is because since they are getting such a high percentage of the purchase price financed, many times it's 100% financed, then the caveat to that was that because of the loan being 100% financed, the buyers were not allowed to be charged for the services of the buyer's agent, which was never a problem before because the buyer was usually getting paid by the listing agent or the seller. But now that throws a monkey wrench into that. Now, as it stands right now, the VA has decided to lift that regulation, but they haven't really said what they're going to do as a permanent fix. Okay, so before we move on to the next subject, I wanted to step in here real quick. I did do some more research and asked around, and as of now, the VA loan contingencies are now allowing buyers to pay for their buyer's agent, but they are not saying anything more than that. So like I said, I'll update you as things come out, but as it stands right now, the buyers can pay for their own agent as with a VA loan, and they just have to include it as part of the expenses on their disclosure. So now that all of this is clear as mud, what does this all mean for the sellers? Well, if you are a seller, that means that now you're going to have a conversation with, hopefully me, your listing agent, and decide how much you're going to pay me, and then also if and how much you are willing to offer out to a buyer's agent, and how much that's going to be to entice them to bring offers to the table. Other than that, for the seller side, it's really not much different than it originally was. Now, the caveat to this is the National Association of Realtors lawsuit, of course, is pertaining to the National Association of Realtors. But in Georgia, a lot of the multiple listing services are not controlled or owned by the National Association of Realtors. They are actually private corporations and privately owned multiple listing services. So, and we've already gotten notices that a lot of the services are not affiliated with the National Association of Realtors lawsuit, and they are opting out of being included in it. So with that being said, does that mean that they are going to continue to leave us a spot to offer out a co-op concession, or are they going to allow us to put it in the remarks, or are they not going to allow it to be advertised at all anywhere on the listing when we put your house on the market in a multiple listing service? And of course, like I said, with the buyer side, it's going to have most of the effect. Now that the agents on the buyer side have to have a brokerage agreement with their buyers, that means you're going to have a conversation with your agent and let them know if and how you are able to pay them for their services. And if you're not able to, that doesn't mean you can't go out and buy a house with an agent. That just may mean that you might have to look a little deeper and find houses that are listed with a seller's concession to pay for the buyer's commission. So I hope this video helps you out. If you've got any questions, give me a call, 478-273-0062, or you can go to my website at realestateproblemsolver.com, and I'll talk to you on the next one.